Hello, good
Hi
afternoon.
there. Hello.
Before we get into the nitty gritty, well, I
Okay.
just want to recap what we talked about the last time. Do you mind if I type up my notes
I
while
do
we talk
not
too?
mind at all.
Um, when we met for prior to the lesson, you had said you wanted to do something to reinforce the whole group instruction.
Mm-hmm.
It's your mid to high group, and spend a lot of focus on the lower groups and transfer mid to high to see if they're also growing, because you notice that they're not growing as much as they should.
Mm-hmm.
So you were kind of trying to figure out what needed to be done instructionally
Yes.
to figure out how to get them to grow
Right.
more than they are.
They're more than they are.
All
Right.
right, just making sure. So with that, what I did is I came in and I watched your lesson, and I did just like we had talked about with the T chart. I put the teacher talk, student responses on the other side, and I even put little timestamps from the video. Since I was recording, I didn't type simultaneously, so it's the
Yeah.
numbers based off of the video.
Okay.
So
All
like
right.
when you see 2:06, it's actually 2 minutes and 6 seconds and so
Okay.
forth.
Okay.
So with that being said, you were teaching central idea and relevant
Right.
details. All right. And so our focus was going to be on the verbiage and keeping track of that group,
Mm-hmm.
making sure it's specific. So here we go.
Right.
So here is a highlighter. I want you to highlight the parts in the lesson where you felt you were very specific, and direct on on explaining central idea and relevant details.
Oh boy. Okay. That's it's just funny you say that because that's where I have to. This is where I get on my thing. So let me go. Okay. Okay. Reminding them what the central idea is. It's funny as I read this, what is more, and they were like Candyland. You know, the question almost like, is it? Hmm. Then I circle right back and let the text feature pull me in. What I'm getting here, it says, let's be more clear. Let's go directly to the text. And I said to, we're not worried about text features. And then he pointed out something that was good, and I was like, well,
Because they're just as important
right. So
as
I
the.
should have said, could have said, well, guys, these are very important as well, and not brush them over. But I think in my mind, I was trying to just get there,
Mm-hmm.
and so then I've got to learn how to almost like pivot to pull what a good deviation would be, and then get them back on track.
Right.
Because it really was, and he's gotten so much better. Like he's so much more with it now.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be very abstract, all over the place, and he's now like
Starting
this.
to make those connections.
Yeah, which is yeah. All right, but okay. So here's a question too. Thinking about doing the story, what do you think of the central idea? And I think question: could or should I have done like a mini lesson on central idea
What
or
makes you
read
say that?
because the because they were not very clear, and I thought the thing about it is I thought that because I taught a whole group that they would have held on to it because they were a higher group, but I think I took some things for granted,
Mm-hmm.
and I think maybe before reading it I should have introduced or rather reviewed it, maybe even made it more clear. I say maybe I no, they've seen it, but I don't know if I assumed it stuck. I assumed, right? So that when they were giving me all these because I wasn't expecting it from that group,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait, what? You know, and it's so crazy because I don't scaffold as much with that group because they are more with it. Hmm. They have more of a grasp on what we're doing. Not that they're more with it, but I don't have to scaffold as much with them, and so I don't. So then I struggle with scaffolding too much. In this case, it wasn't enough because I could have just done I think a mini lesson to review what it was and what they're looking for, and then went into it, and they would have been much more connected. Yeah.
Because
For
even the
sure.
things that they were saying, from what I noticed and what I captured,
Yeah.
they weren't that far off.
Right.
So they're not completely off in left field.
Yeah.
So the power in that mini lesson, when we connect it back to what you were saying, the verbiage, right?
Yeah.
And would have allowed those students to be more successful.
Right. Right. Instead of me having to do so much pulling and yeah, I skipped that.
But it kind of
However,
goes too with what you were saying before with the text features and that instructional pivot,
mm-hmm.
that it's okay. So when you notice that the kids were giving you, firing off like fractions of what you wanted,
Yeah.
it's okay to stop and then do your mini lesson.
Okay. See,
Because
again,
it's okay. I grant you permission.
right. But the power
But
of me. Yeah, because I think that it's so typical when you have a lesson in your mind planned out and you think that you know these kids well enough and you think you know what you think all these things, you don't think about the what ifs.
So that piece there would kind of tie into making it a more cohesive lesson in the sense that we planned out all the things that we want them to do, but now they're taking a step further for those. What if they don't?
Yeah.
What are we going to do next?
Right.
So the almost like that planned scaffold.
Yes.
So they needed something, but now we need to plan what that something was.
Yes.
But thinking back to the plan, what didn't you do? Well, you kind of uncovered the fact that the mini lesson.
I did do a mini lesson. Right.
So where would we put that mini lesson in the grand scheme of things? If you could go back and redo
if I could, I would after their fluency probe, which let me tell you, putting that ownership on them, I'm not doing anything different. Probably I will say never. That's not necessarily, but I love putting that ownership on them and showing them, and they got it quickly, showing them how to count where they are versus me going, oh, okay, then they were there, right? And so that part, but getting back to that, I just thought that was huge. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because it's relevant, and it's not just sight word drill. Okay,
right.
But let me get back to this. I would have done it right before, after the fluency probe, before introducing a new text, because I think then they would have gone into it with a clear vision of where they're going, where they were supposed to be going.
Yes.
And even though after a lot of probing they got there, this group would have gotten there more directly had they known where they were supposed to be going in the first place.
Right. Giving them those pieces to set them up for success.
Right.
So with that being said, what would because if we're talking about the verbiage too, what would your mini lessons sound like?